Could you imagine living in 13 different houses, 4 different cities, and 2 different states, all before you reach the age of 22? I have lived in places where it is 75 degrees outside for Thanksgiving, and I've also lived in places where the average temperature during winter is 20 degrees. I have lived in very small towns, and I have also lived in big metropolitan areas as well. My name is Ashley Andrews, and I have lived in Nacogdoches, Texas, Carthage, Texas, Louisville, Kentucky, and Dallas, Texas. I was born in Nacogdoches, Texas, and I lived there for a very short time, couple years, and then my family moved to Louisville, Kentucky. I moved there and started first grade. I went there first through fifth grade at Low Elementary in Louisville. After that, we moved to Carthage, Texas, which is a really, really small town. No one knows where it is unless you're from there. I went from a population of 600,000 people to a population of 6,000 people, so it was a bit of an adjustment. It also was a culture shock because things are much different in Texas than they are in Kentucky. I will never forget my first day of sixth grade. Everyone was saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the Texas flag, and I stood there and had absolutely no idea what it even was. And I just kind of stood there and mouthed and pretended like I knew what was going on, even though I had no idea. And it was pretty embarrassing. It's a memory that I will never forget. Fast forwarding to my college experience, I lived with my best friend. I still lived in Carthage, went to a really small community college there. I worked full time, went to school full time, and I also was in the band. I got a full ride scholarship to college playing the trumpet. I was in school, and at the very end of my last semester, I found out that my restaurant that I was working at was closing. So, being such a small town, there was nowhere else to work. So, I decided to move in with my aunt and uncle in the Colony, Texas, near Dallas. And I moved there, started working, got my own apartment, and at 19, I lived in this big city all by myself pretty much with only 2 family members nearby, and it really helped me to be self-sufficient and really do a lot of growing up. And now that you know a little bit more about me, I would like to share with you 4 objects that will show you a more in-depth version of me. My first object that represents how I see myself is my family photo album. This is where I scrapbook and I keep all of my photos. I have my first pictures of my daughter on the ultrasound, and I have my first vacation with my fiance to Gulf Shores, Alabama. I have pictures of pretty much everything, every holiday, birthdays, all of that. I think it's super important because one day you're not going to have anything to look back on other than the pictures. That's going to be your memories. So I think that that's really important so that you can reminisce on all of the special moments in your life. And this brings me to my second object, which is something that interests me in one of my hobbies, which is cooking. This is my favorite cooking pan. I love to try new recipes. My favorite thing to cook is steak. I also enjoy watching cooking shows like Chopped. Gordon Ramsay is my favorite. I watch Hell's Kitchen and Kitchen Nightmares, and anything cooking related is just really interesting to me. And this brings me to my third object, which is something that represents how I believe other people see me, and that is my cell phone. I think that this represents a misconception about me that I'm antisocial because I don't call and text very often, but it's not that I don't want to, it's just that I really have to prioritize because I have a full-time job, another full-time job, having a 9-month-old daughter. And when I do get that free time, I just want to relax and spend time with my family. And if I don't keep my priorities straight, then my life will be even more hectic and chaotic than it already is. And this brings me to my last object, which is something that my best friend says represents her perception of me. And that's an onion. She says that I'm very complex and my personality has multiple layers. But one thing is that I do have a real ability to focus on things that I want to achieve, and I don't let anything get in my way. And I can commit and follow through with actions and not just back out at the first sign of trouble or when I experience something go wrong. And I constantly challenge myself, and I love to learn. I am glad to have had this time to share with you more about myself and my life. I'm a very complex person who will never cease to surprise you, and I am looking forward to learning more about you and our similarities and differences. Thank you for listening.